Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you.
Is it a little delayed?
I think it's a little delayed. I don't know. I'm not sure. This is
Oh,
awkward.
it's a little delayed.
Now, here's your hosts, the League Dad, Kevin, Mitchell, and Alistair.
What's up, gamers, and welcome to another episode of the All In Podcast. I am the League Dad, and as always, joined by Kevin, Mitchell, and Alistair, my awesome co-hosts. And, we thought we were going to have a break this week because we were like, well, we got some time when MSI's coming, and actually, no, because it starts next Tuesday. So we're back, right in the swing of things. Gonna talk about all the stuff to look forward to in those games, and look at the patch as well because it's finally a new meta that we could possibly look at for the tournament. But before that, how you guys doing? How has life been treating you guys?
Yeah, it's been going well. One of my high school friends is staying over at my place right now. He'll be here until next Tuesday. So
Nice.
we're getting food, and he's right now exploring because I was working during the day. But
Yeah.
it was nice to hang out. We even got a ladder for my loft. So
That's right. You got that last
what's
week,
up
and
there.
so it came in perfect timing for that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome.
So
Cool.
Nothing special for me. Pretty normal. I do get to go to LA next month
Oh,
for a CLL, so that'll be a lot of fun.
that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, he was mentioning that you're gonna be able to see your team play on the LCS stage, right? That's pretty cool.
Correct.
What? Oh, the actual
if you get
stage?
The actual
Yeah.
stage.
Nice.
So, guys, if Alistair gets subbed in, he's officially in LCS. By the way,
There you go.
That's what happens with that. Yeah, for me, I'm just chilling. I'm not working, and I woke up like 45 minutes ago.
Yeah,
Wasn't a game
listeners,
tonight.
I just got to jump in real quick and say that I see Mitchell, like I never see him early AM. I'm on the East Coast, he's on the West Coast. So I'm on Discord and it's like 8 AM and I see Mitchell typing. I'm like, what the heck? And then I go, all right, Mitchell, are you awake before or after you've slept? And he's like, oh, I haven't slept yet. I was like, oh, makes sense. So we got a bunch of good ARAM games. That's been fun. You've been playing a lot of ARAM in your spare time?
Yeah, I've been playing a lot of ARAM, a little bit of solo queue and some normal
Nice.
games, but I'm waiting to get to Seattle till my ping was better. And then I'm gonna climb and get diamond for the first time. I've hit plat 1, never actually made it to diamond yet, so
Yeah.
it's
Cool, man.
happening. I'm gonna do it. Yep.
That sounds amazing. I'm still climbing. I'm diamond at heart, but I'm still
hey.
right there in the silver and gold status. That's all right. Let's move on to some news because look, in just 1 week since the season has been done, we're already seeing moves. I mean, we were already speculating what was going to happen. The biggest one that we've been talking about and that you've been seeing all over the place is C9. Obviously, with their collapse right at the end of the split, it was obvious that something was going to be done. I think we were of the belief and, we're kind of hoping that they'd give this roster a chance and just change coaching, maybe strategies, find a new identity. That didn't happen. And in fact, what the rumors were saying on Reddit were in fact true. So let me just recap what's gone on right now. So C9 have parted ways with Summit, Winsome, and Isles, and those were pretty much the pieces that were faulty for them. And in return, they've moved Fudge back up to the top lane. They've signed Jensen, which is already funny in itself. And then they're bringing Zven, not to ADC, but to support Berserker. So I got to get your thoughts on this move because there's a lot to, I guess, kind of speculate or digest there. Mainly how you think they're going to do. So let me get your thoughts on that.
yeah, I mean, so I was peddling, that good stuff last episode,
Mhm.
talking about how we would keep the coach, or we would fire the coaches and keep the players because they're so valuable. Some is the
Yeah.
MVP. Yeah, sorry, I guess I
Nope.
just have too high expectations of NA. I think this is it's a terrible move to get rid of Summit in the sense for NA because he's just a very good player. Yes, he has his limitations, but it's there's always been good pieces out there that can be coached into to become viable and good at something. Like SOFM has been in the scene forever, and he got to World Finals. He's been playing that weird Warmogs, very strange style of jungle forever, and someone made it work. So for me, I'm a little disappointed. I don't necessarily have a lot of faith in this coaching staff. Honestly,
Yeah.
I don't think they have the authority for it, but they might not need it. This new roster on paper, it's good. Jensen's very good. We've been saying that he's probably going to be number 1, number 2 if he didn't fall off from last year.
Yeah.
And then I think Zven, he'll probably be fine. He'll probably be actually quite good because he wasn't that great of a player when he went to support, and he became like top 3, right?
Yeah.
And Core JJ was like decent as AD carry, and he became like very good when he went to support. So like, I think good players just become even better supports because supports just the pool's not that deep, guys. I'm sorry. So yeah, and Berserker's I'm so glad they kept Berserker. If we lost Berserker, I'm just like, okay, C9's blacklisted. Like I don't care about them ever until like years later. So yeah, that's how C9 was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of mirror Kevin's sentiment. I think it was the wrong decision for the long term, but we kind of know how this goes. It's short term takes priority.
Yep. Yep.
My favorite part about it is JoJo really did send Fudge back to top
That's
lane.
hilarious. Yes.
That's the best part for me. Losing Summit's unfortunate, but I don't know whether it was the team or the organization removing him or him
Yes.
removing
Yeah.
himself from the equation. My guess would be that he removed himself from the equation. It kind of looked like he eventually just stopped caring. I guess the big question would be, is this roster making it to Worlds?
Yeah.
Yep. That is a
Which
good question.
I'm not necessarily convinced.
Ooh, okay.
I think it's pretty clearly between Cloud9 and 100 Thieves. And honestly, maybe big asterisk here, maybe FlyQuest, if they get a better top laner in the offseason.
Okay.
But I would hazard on the assumption of no. Because they have
Okay.
2 people who are essentially off-rolling now for this season.
True.
Yeah, that's fair. In terms of world spots, this is what I keep harping on, right? Like, if you're gonna make a change as Cloud9, for immediate gains, as they are doing now, you have to consider, is this gonna break you into top 3 so you can go to Worlds? And yeah, I mean, Alistair, you said their main competition is 100 Thieves, right? But 100 Thieves was second, not third. Team Liquid is actually the third place team. So by standings, they'll have to compete with Team Liquid. But maybe power level, right? We think maybe 100 Thieves will be a bit weaker. So it's a pretty scary world for C9, I think. This roster, obviously, really good. Zven is the big question mark, but I 100% agree. Support's by far the easiest role to pick up and play. I think there's a lot of deep knowledge you can get from a tons of experience. But in terms of just picking it up and playing the champions, you don't have to CS. That's just so easy. So I think it's possible that they could definitely get top 4 and look like a really good team. But when it gets down to the wire, I mean, you're starting fresh in summer against 3 teams that you're competing in the Worlds that have had all year long. So I personally don't think that they're favored to go to Worlds. I do favor the other top 3 teams
Mm-hmm.
who've had a lot of time to get together. And it's honestly, it would take a miracle. Like, this would have to be a sort of C9 miracle split to get to Worlds and look like a really solid team. I mean, you have Jensen coming back to C9. Like, that's crazy, right? I'm pretty sure this guy left C9
Yeah.
because of their systems, you know? So,
Uh-huh.
the drama's going to be spicy. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Jensen he's biting his lip. He's biting back his lip and being like, I need a team. I'm just going with the systems. I don't care. C9 is a top team. As much as maybe we don't agree on some stuff, Jensen wants to prove himself, right? He wants to still be in there. So good for him. He's a great player, never missed Worlds. I'm afraid this might be his first time, though.
Yeah, I think I have to. It's weird because I echo all the sentiments. It's seeming like we're all kind of not on board with this move with C9. I think what it does definitely signify is that they need immediate results. Like, they want to make Worlds. Like, I think that's pretty evident in this move. I gotta agree though, Mitchell. I'm not quite sure if they can do it. Like, on paper, it seems exciting, and I don't know if it's because it's like a little spicy, which is why people are like maybe hyping this up a little bit. But I have a lot of reservations. Like, Fudge is switching mid-year, back to top lane. And while, yes, he's performed better there on the stage, in the LCS stage and top lane, I mean, what has the time off done? Is he still at that same level, or has he regressed a little bit? We're not sure, And then to have Jensen in, yes, he's again a veteran pro, but so's Bjergsen, right? And Bjergsen kind of was like meh, right now too, right? And so I think another huge, like probably the biggest question mark though, is Zven coming to support, right? Because historically we have seen support, off rollers to support, as a new role, people have gotten better. But can they do it this quickly? I know he's spamming it in solo queue right now. Zven is, spamming supports, and but how is the interaction with Berserker going to go? And so I think there's a lot of questions where I think I do echo the fact that I think they're good on paper. I think they might even do well in regular season. But when it gets to playoffs, I'm not sure how this team is going to gel, if they're going to be able to pick it up in time, get cohesion in time to do well.
And then especially, right? Like you just said, like, yeah, Jensen's a great veteran. Like this team is full of veterans, but like, who cares about veterans anymore,
Yeah,
right? I
you're
got
right.
Danny and JoJo. So like their value just in terms of like the overall continuity of LCS it's not as big anymore because
Yeah.
you have veterans just don't seem to matter as much, especially this year. So, you know, it's just like you could have picked up Jensen and put Zven in support, but what if you actually just got two rookies?
Yeah.
And sure, you might not make it worlds, but you could just win the whole split because, new talent
New
is
talent.
actually just unknown. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think
Warren.
Alistair, I think did you have something to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think Fudge will be okay in top lane. I think the first couple weeks might be a bit rough, but I think eventually he will get back to where he was. He hasn't been off relatively long.
Mhm.
I mean, obviously he's been off for an entire split, but he probably still plays. He probably queues up with top lane as his off role. He's probably like I don't think he's gonna be too rusty.
Yeah.
The big question mark for me mainly is Zven, because a lot of the time there's a good chance he's going to be main engage, and that this doesn't include eing forward on Ezreal into a Skarner. Right? This is going to
Rip.
be like, and my criticism on Sven has always been he's very good at doing his job, but he's never going to go for those big plays that'll win you the game, and that's kind of something
You need
that's
that.
pretty important on, especially in like a meta right now with like Leona and Nautilus, where
Mhm.
I don't see those champions getting nerfed anytime soon. Riot hasn't nerfed Leona for years, so I think she's going to stay that way. And if I don't know if Sven's going to make those plays, I hope I'm wrong, because it is a completely different play style, and so maybe that hit playing super far back is just a style of AD carry as a player. But going off of what we've seen, that's my main worry.
Yeah, I think you make a really good point about how he has played typically as an ADC. Will that translate over into support, where oftentimes you have to be the risk taker? I mean, especially if you're charged with being engaged. And so that will be tricky, and we'll have to wait and see if Sven can actually transform that into his mindset. I did want to spotlight and just highlight the just negative feelings I have about Summit being gone, Winsome being gone, and Isles being gone. I know, Kevin, you mentioned it as well. Like, it's a shame that Summit is gone. Like, he's probably going back to LCK. I think I tend to agree with Alistair in thinking that maybe it's his part that wants to leave. Like, it is rather embarrassing being the MVP, being hyped up, and then you know how our fans are. As soon as you start, going on this downtrend, it seems a little ugly. So it sucks to lose him, and I'm hoping maybe he'll come to some other NA, LCS team and dumpster Cloud9. So that would be amazing. But I also think Isles made a little side note that I think his work visa ends in like 9 days. So he's trying to find a job here if he can. Otherwise, who knows how much longer he can stay in the country. And then again, Winsome, we mentioned, like, look, guy didn't play great, but he's only played 2 years. He's still developing, and it's just a shame that he's no longer there.
Yeah, I mean, like, so quickly, Isle still has like a grace period afterwards. Like, so it's actually like 41 days instead of
Okay,
11 days, which
that's
is what
good.
the Reddit post was talking about.
Yeah.
Really misleading post, but like when Isles himself did say this, so
Yeah, I
Reddit,
think he
speak
tweeted
Reddit.
it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Winsome, it's disgusting to me. Like, I don't think his
Yep.
play was amazing, but like it's disgusting. They're like, we believe in this guy. Also, please like buy into these like people, buy into these storylines, buy into these talents, buy into Fudge Mid being what we think is the best option. And then we just recant. And
Yeah.
then when they asked us to, why don't we trust the orgs, right? Yeah, I'm just like, I don't know. Every time I buy into your like projects, you just like flip flop after
Yeah.
like a split, a week, a couple weeks, right? A couple days in some cases. So that sucks. And the other thing I wanted to highlight was, and maybe this is another discussion topic, but it's also really damning on the bottom 6 teams that no one picked up Summit. So the reason why it was like hard at
Yeah.
first is like there was a buyout, and then they were like, okay, no one wants him for a buyout. Then how about we just no buyout? Let's just sell his contract.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody wanted him either. And I get it. Impact someday, even Whippo for sure. Like I still Whippo, if Whippo recovers, he's still good, right? Impact someday, like there's no way you'd be being replaced on the top team.
Yep.
So then why are all these teams that we were getting destroyed by Summit all split lung? Like nobody's even putting a bid over.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, it was just like anyone take him. So, and what's interesting about that is like the fact that he was being shopped around makes me feel like it's a C9 move. I
Ooh.
originally thought personally that I thought Summit wanted to go home. Period. And if he wanted to go home, period, there's no way he's being shopped around NA teams. Like he would never approve of that, right? He would just go home.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it feels like at least it edges more towards C9 pushing him out.
I mean, if you say it
But-
like that, it sounds like, was that a problem with Summit? Like, it sounds like Summit is a problem
Yeah,
as
C9
far as
didn't
being a
want
player.
it, right? Because
Yeah.
of his problems, and maybe the other teams that heard about it, the rumor mill, maybe
Right.
just through talking to
Difficult
C9
to
friends,
work
but
with, maybe. Yeah.
Well, I mean, to add on to that, I mean, I think it's probably a bit of both. It's not like just C9 or just Summit. It's probably it's like always in these situations, it's both, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, both players and parties wanted to separate, but also like the shopping around. I mean, we actually don't know how the negotiations or talks went, right? Like as far as we know, someone could have said, "I don't want to go to a bottom team. You can shop me
True.
around for like these list of teams." We have no
Yeah.
idea how that really broke down, right? Because I'm pretty sure, like, I mean, FlyQuest would have taken Summit.
I
Like,
know,
there's-
right?
like, right? So, I'm pretty sure Summit maybe had a list of things like that he would not. I'm not going to these teams. I'm going to
Yeah.
Korean-speaking teams or a top NA team or a top LEC team, whatever it is, right? So I think that's like way more likely than like these bottom teams not taking him because Summit just wouldn't go. Um, yeah, we just don't know what happens behind
Yeah,
the
we
scenes,
we
right?
really don't, and that's all we're.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a very likely scenario too, right? Right now, we're just kind of guessing in the minds, but it's interesting to hear or see the pieces that are happening to lead to where we're at right now. But let's move on to TSM because look, they were also in dire need of some changes. So just to recap, they got rid of Kaido. And so that project is over. And there's a rumor, it's not solidified yet, but there's a rumor that Maple might be coming on to TSM as their mid laner. Again, still a rumor. But we also know that Shenyi will be the starting support for TSM. And Mia, who they just signed, will be part of their academy team. So right now, if we speculate that Maple is on the roster, you got Huni in the top lane, you got Spica, you got Maple, you got Tactical, and then you have who did I? Shenyi. So
Shenyi.
yeah, what do you think of this roster? Is it good, better, worse? What?
Yeah, I mean it has to be better. Like, okay, I watch LPL. Maple was not that good in LPL. He was benched on like
Mhm.
anyone's legend, which was like a meme team. Like they were like 13th place out of like it's like 16 or 18 teams in LPL right now. So yeah, I mean that's not great, but we've seen him. We've seen River perform, and Maple's like River, but like even more senior. This guy has, taken names for years and years and years. So like, sure, he had an off year in LPL, but LPL is the hardest league in the world in terms of depth, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So like, even a team with like the Shy on it might not make it to top four, and or the Shy and Rookie in the past, but didn't even make it to top four. Like, so it's like, if I promise you, any team of any of the players in LCS right now, plus the Shy Rookie, gets top two, guaranteed. It's not even close,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it doesn't say too much about Maple yet. It's an upgrade, right? Kaido or whatever his name was definitely a risk they took.
Mhm.
Who knows if it was Peter Zhang or not, but he was a risk, and I think it does reflect well on TSM that they kept Shenyi. I'm actually super happy
Yes.
about that. I don't necessarily think he played that well last year or last split, but that's fine.
Mhm.
He was the actual prospect that they knew like had some stage time, was on a very top org, had a lot of talent, and like he seems kind of likable. He might be talkative, but like at least he's talking, right? So I think this is good. I think this is just like the right direction to take the roster. They have all the core pieces. Kuni, Speak of Tactical are not bad. This could be like top 6, right? Top 5 is like what I expect without seeing them play.
Okay.
I would disagree with you. I think off the top of my head, I would have this team around 7th. personally.
Okay, I mean,
That's just my opinion. I think the mid upgrade is pretty good. I think it's a shame that Takeover probably didn't even really get much consideration here.
Yeah.
Yep,
Kind of
that's true.
unfortunate for him.
Yeah.
But that's a whole other conversation about Academy. Overall, only changing the mid laner, I don't think it's going to change too much. Obviously, it's a significant upgrade, but they still have Huni, and they still have
Huni
a
hater.
bot lane who didn't perform,
Yeah.
They still have
and they
Malphite in
have
the bot lane.
they did fine, but they didn't like. I can't remember a single like big play that they did. I can remember ones that Destiny and Wild Turtle did, but I don't remember their bot lane doing anything. Actually, there was the one play they did one. Okay, never mind. And they have tilted Spica.
That's true.
I mean,
They tilt each other, man.
maybe Maple comes back and changes a lot of things. I hope I'm wrong,
Yeah.
but for me it's one of those I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah. So for some background, I mean, Maple, like I think Kevin hinted at his history, but Maple is one of the most longevity players. I mean, that's not the right phrasing, but he's been here for like a long time. He was on the original Flash Wolves team. That was from the LMS, which is not a region anymore. And had players like Karsa, right? Karsa, very famous, really up there, always on a top 3 LPL team. And Maple was their mid laner. And this guy would be like, 2015, 2016 solo killing Faker in lane, right? This like random region actually taking down some of the best teams in the world. So this guy has a history of being very good. And yeah, I agree with the sentiment that being middle of the pack in LPL probably means that if you play like you're still in the LPL, right? If you play as best as you can, LCS will be a breeze for you. But that's the problem with most imports, right? They come from a really difficult region, and yeah, while they're in that region, they play super well, and they might be top middle pack, whatever. But then they come to NA and they don't play at the same
This
level.
is true. Yeah.
And they drop off, and they think the region's easier than it is. But I swear to God, if every player who came from a harder region continued to pretend that they're still in that region, they would smack NA. They just don't play like that, right? So we'll have to see with Maple how that goes. He's kind of in a dumpster fire of an org, so I feel bad for him and his legacy. But I wish him the best. For this bot lane, I mean, all I can remember is basically Shenyi flaming the crap out of Tactical for not knowing how to just handle level 1 waves, right?
Yeah.
Like he just didn't know what to do in the level 1 wave. And then I remember Jensen saying on like Doublelift's co-stream or something, where Tactical at Worlds last year in the tiebreaker, they picked Tristana Rel to counter a Yuumi lane, and he took E level 1 and forgot to freeze, right? Like this kind of stuff, as high are the highs that Tactical has, this kind of stuff makes me not want to have him as a player in the LCS. Because I don't care if you get this really random like 1v4 quadra kill or whatever, blah blah blah. But if like you actually just can't listen to don't take E level 1 or like not know how to play level 1 waves and stuff like that, like it makes me not want you to have you in the league. So I'm pretty against just keeping Tactical in general, unless he can significantly improve in the very simple just don't be dumb moments. Like don't auto the wave level. Like it's so easy, right? Just don't click. So
Pretty harsh words for Tactical.
Yeah, I think he deserves it, right?
Yeah,
like, this
yeah,
guy
yeah.
was on the top of
Yeah,
rookie
he
NA
was.
ADCs.
You're right.
And if you want to be the top, you get the harshest criticism when you don't perform well. So
Yeah, I
you're
think
doing
it's
some stupid stuff, man.
it's just he's had really good mechanical plays. That's great, but
Yep.
you also need to have that brain to go with it. And there are just some egregious mistakes that they should not be making as pro level players. That just sometimes just seems like autopilot mode, and you're just not thinking, or you're not being prepared, like to have that mindset going in the game. But the biggest thing I'm upset about this, if this rumor is true that Maple goes to TSM, is that we won't get a reunion of River and Maple, if Maple could go to Dignitas. But one thing that is happening in Dignitas, Mitchell, I'm sure you're sad. Your boy Fake God is
No, my MVP.
no longer gone.
Oh,
No longer there.
God.
Yeah. So I mean, how are you
Summit
feeling?
and Fake God. the same split. That's just rude, man. That's just unfair.
I really did. When I saw that, I the first thing I thought about was, man, that's Mitchell's MVP right there. But I mean, it is kind of, I don't want to harp on him too much because I mean, that's tough, man. Like not everyone can be the best. Someone out of, like, even if you're a pro, like he'll poop on any person, just regularly. But unfortunately, in the pro scene, he's just not at the top. So, I feel bad for Fake God, but I hope that he continues to find work somewhere in the scene. But let's talk about Immortals real quick, because Xerxe, who was, this jungler that we thought and were hoping that, would make some noise in, Immortals in the LCS, he's going back. He's going to Australis. So they don't have Xerxe, but they did get Ignar. And they also got Lost. So I think as it stands now, we have Revenge in the top lane, Nacho in the jungler. We've got PoE in the mid lane. Then we got Lost and Ignar. So quick thoughts on that roster.
Yeah, to me, like, I think Ignar is like basically just like a tier under Jensen. I think he's like one of those guys who would have gotten a team at any other point. Maybe some contracts didn't work out or timings didn't work out, and he just didn't want. He wanted to play for a top team. Now he's joining halfway through the split. I think he's just a good addition to a team. I think he's played well for most of his career. Like, he has made a lot of teams look better than they have any right to be, just because he's good at engaging, right? He's good at roaming. He does have some lane issues, but I'm not saying he's the number one support. I'm just saying he's a very competent one. And I think he's going to add a lot to that team. I do think that Lost is a little bit of a head scratcher for me. I'm not very high on him, but I do have to give him credit that, like, if you just cut out his lows, like, he's actually quite good consistency wise. He's quite good. So maybe that's what they wanted out of him. Turtle's still on the bench there, so if Turtle can get his stuff together, they do have 3/5 of that old FlyQuest like double second place roster right here. It's
true.
It used to be Turtle, Ignar, and PoE. I have no idea who the jungler is. I think the jungler is going to decide a lot for how this team's future is going to go.
Yeah.
Like, a lot, because Xerxe was a pretty good player, right? So they need. Hopefully they're upgrading.
You think Sinskaran? I don't know if he's is he on a team?
I haven't heard a single rumor about Sinskaran since he like.
Either.
It's
he
so
joined
strange.
C9. He joined C9 as like a content creator / like sub, right? So.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, so I mean, yeah, I think we'll have to see who that jungler will be. Alistair, what are your thoughts on the roster?
I don't really know. It's really going to come down to the jungler. Because if it's someone that Ignar can play with, I think it's going to be a really big deal.
That's true.
Because I feel like they have a strong mid laner as long as he doesn't randomly buy Lich Bane. But I've said it before, and I'll say it again. You know who'd be really good with this roster? Xmithy.
Oh, I agree,
Yeah.
actually. I agree 100%.
Yeah, no, you're right.
I'm not gonna get my way, and I know that. But if you haven't noticed, Xmithy's one of my favorite players.
I'd love it. That would just make my day if all of a sudden we're like, welcome Xmithy to welcome back to Immortals.
Yeah, welcome back for like the third time, right?
Yeah.
I do think like Xmithy would be the perfect jungler for this team, right? Because so similar to Santorin, it's a jungler that's willing to engage and get in there, but also is playing the supportive champions that makes sense for PoE, but also makes sense for Ignar, right? Because if you get a carry jungler, right, like Blabber or something like this, it just wouldn't work for the team because you have PoE. And if you get a super passive jungler, it wouldn't work for Ignar, right? So you do kind of need that perfect kind of mix that Santorin Xmithy kind of give off. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if this roster is gonna be breaking any headlines, guys. Like what they were like 9th or 10th last split. I mean, they might still be there, honestly. Like, who are they pushing out, right? You have to push out some teams that like TSM got upgrades too. So and that was your main competition in the 9th, 10th spots. Was TSM. So I don't know how much this actually does.
Sad.
What I would like to see, honestly, if we don't see Xmithy, because Immortals, right? They're just not going to Worlds, right? And your goal should be to make playoffs and make a splash. Honestly, just get some academy players in there.
Yeah.
I honestly think Chad had honestly a really bad showing. I really don't care. One day, just put Chad back in, see what he has to show.
Yeah.
If he doesn't do well, find another guys. Immortals. why are you spending money, right? You're not making it to Worlds. You're maybe making it into playoffs and maybe taking one best of series. Just stop spending the money and get some community sentiment. I think train up some academy players, give them some time, would be their best bet. But they got Ignar, so we'll see how that
Yeah,
goes.
I think, especially we talked about this before, but like with EG winning, and kind of proving, that NA young talent can succeed. Hopefully, other orgs take notice of that, start developing, and not being afraid of playing their academy players. What I've learned from this, I was reflecting on this, right? One thing I've learned about this split, especially when we're making predictions, is that the regular season matters nothing. It doesn't matter at all. Look at
Big
EG.
playoffs.
Look at EG. Like, who would have thought?
Both our finals teams.
Both our finals teams. You're absolutely right. It was like crazy that, C9 and TL were 1 and 2, or 2 and 1. It's like, and then they didn't even win, So I think play your academy players, give young talent a chance, especially if you're not making it to Worlds. Like, get developing. Then they will be good. Maybe, you never know. Next split, somebody from this experience gets something.
And then you can sell them off if they look good, right? Do the whole C9 experiment.
Cloud9,
C9 was doing this for years, and then they just stopped. They would just bring in their young academy players with no experience, and all of a sudden they're just the best player in the whole league. Licorice, right? Licorice and Blabber were both famously on academy or not very well known, joined in out of nowhere and became instantly top 2 in their role. Yeah, contracts, right? There's so many players on this list, and we just stopped, right? So we should start that again. I think especially, it makes no sense for me if you're a perennial bottom 7 to 10th team and you're busting out these massive contracts for actual big name players. Like, I love PoE. I have for a while, but I don't know why he's on Immortals, right? Is he gonna make it to Worlds on that? No, he's not.
Yeah.
Put in some random academy, and at least you'll get some community sentiment, and you can maybe find the next NA talent. But
That's right.
no, we want to rewinds.
Hopefully they learn their lessons from, signing just, or like, again, just wasting time on names rather than developing new fresh blood, new fresh talent.
Especially if the results are the same, right? So,
exactly. And exactly. So let's go to, because I know we could talk about that all day, but look.
I do have one thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to say, just kind of building off what you're saying, Mitchell, I think there's 2 players that I can think of right now who, in my opinion, have deserved a spot on an LCS team for a while, but have been stuck in either academy or amateur hell, and that's Kenvi, who I believe is the academy jungler for 100 Thieves, and 5Fire. I think those are 2 really good players who have not gotten their shot yet, and I think they 100% deserve a spot and should have they should have their chance on something like 100 Thieves, or sorry, a IMT.
Yeah.
Immortals, Dignitas, Golden Guardians, all these guys. Give me a year of stage time.
Man, I'm gonna have to start watching Academy, just because, maybe if it starts to increase in popularity, then the fans will demand more of like this talent that we see on Academy, and to bring them.
The problem I have with Academy
is
their schedule sucks. It's always during work hours, and second, the casting sucks. So it's hard to watch for me.
Well, okay. Well, let's move on now to MSI. It's starting next Tuesday, May 10th. That's why we're recording now, doing our preview. Look, I think the sentiment is that we have we drew into a good group. I think so. If you guys don't know, our group is us, G2, and Order from OCE. And what are your thoughts? Because let's just start the HOPIUM now, right? You know what I'm saying? Are we winning this thing? Because we got G2, we can take them out, right?
I mean, this is like rigged, right? Like, we took Order's best players, or like the OCE region's best players, then we slap them in a group here, and we're like, oh yeah, we're gonna kick you while you're down.
Oh gosh, I know, it's dirty.
And if anyone remembers from last year, it was like Pentanet.gg or whatever took a game off of us. The Perks roster, like, so it's not free, right? But then you just like glance around the rest of like the pretty scary teams out there, like, we could have been in a group with RNG or in a group with T1, which is even scarier. And then there could have been like Saigon Buffaloes, right? Which is the VCS team. The Vietnamese team is finally coming, right? Like, we might forget, but like that was like the heir apparent to like right behind PCS or right behind the Taiwanese team, right? So
Yeah.
those are all scary teams for us for NA. OCE is not scary. Just because Herx's like $10 million contract lost to Pentanet once last MSI doesn't mean that they're gonna do it again, right? So I think this is great for confidence. At the very least, we'll get a 2-0 there. If we could split 1-1 with G2, I think that's great. I think this is
It's not
perfect for.
1-1. It's
Or sorry,
4
it's like a
games.
4 round, yeah. So
Yeah, you play
split
4
2-2,
games.
right? But even
Yeah.
if we just get a game off them, like that's good learning. Like this is the perfect time to get international experience against people who are not so much better that you lose all confidence in League of Legends, and you're like, JoJo's just like, all right, I'm going back to Fortnite, guys. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Baker's up like 10-0 on him every game, right? Like this.
Yeah.
So I think this is perfect. I think this is perfect for our, like we have very little excuses. And if this is a momentum based team, this is like the perfect like movie storyline, royal road to get to semis and do well. You know, like to me, if
Heck
they get to
yeah.
semis and get a game or two, I'm pretty happy.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I think it's a good group. I don't think there's much else to say. It could have been a lot worse.
Yeah.
I don't think it could have been much better. They're not gonna win. I'm just gonna be the realistic guy here. Everyone's just, oh, EG's gonna win Emmett. No, they aren't. They're maybe make it to semis. Hopefully make it to semis. But
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
I think they
I'm
are.
hoping for good.
I'm hoping for good too. I think they're favored to make semis, as in they make top 4, right? So they just have to act like a major region team, and I think they'll make it. And I think it's actually in their favor because, I mean, we can all meme C9 and the Crabber memes, right? They didn't make it to top 4,
Yeah.
which is a big bummer. But that was a very special circumstance where, I don't know, Blabber really felt like he just mentally boomed on stage.
Yeah.
So I think for this roster, I mean, they don't seem like a mental boom kind of team. And if they do mental boom, I mean, this is going to be a great learning experience for some of these young guys, right? Like,
Yeah.
first international experience, you're going to be getting basically shit stomped in scrims by RNG and T1, and you have to live with that. This is international competition life. Every NA team goes through this. They get crapped on by the Asian teams in scrims, and you have to be like, it's okay. I know I went 0-5 in scrims today, but I will play tomorrow
Yeah.
and still pretend like that didn't happen and I can win. Like, so that is a big mentality thing that these young players are going to have to go through, right? Because Inspired, Vulcan, Impact, they've all done it, right? They're all telling JoJo and Danny, it's okay if you go 0-10 versus Gumayushi and Faker. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's just going to happen sometimes. So if they can get over that, they basically get to play like a mini best of 5 against G2. Like the amount of experience and talent that this team created from playing best of 5s in the playoffs, it's a big deal for this team. So I think getting basically a free best of 5 against G2, and as long as you don't shit the bed against Order or whatever, you'll get to go through, right? So I really do think like if they just don't lose to Order and they move on to the next phase, they just get a kind of a free group to really experiment, really try to match G2's level and get good.
Yeah.
And if they can just basically take these sparring matches against G2 and really internalize it and get better, they have a real chance of making a top 4 and doing some damage, maybe in a best of 5 series. So their performance here is going to echo for LCS for basically the rest of the year, right? Like if they do make it to top 4 and they do something in the best of 5 stage, NA is going to be really hyped about this team. NA is going to be really hyped about NA talent. NA is going to be really motivated to keep this train going. So
Yeah.
I hope it works out for us. This is a big deal for NA fans and LCS players. Like this tournament is going to define how our future looks as a region. So I'm excited to see how that goes down, but it's kind of stressful.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of weight on this young team, but I am the same mentality. I think we need, this is just everything that's happened with all the drama with TSM and all the drama with Cloud9. And, you know, I think this is just what we needed. Like it was kind of the old guard dying off and then the drama happening, you know, longtime fans of those orgs are not, you know, trusting those orgs anymore. And what a team to rally behind, you know, a young team, a franchise, you know, newly franchised team. Well, not new organization, but new to the LCS. And then, having this Cinderella-like story with NA talent, because it's been this biggest argument in this region for so long, developing talent versus importing talent. And I'm hoping that they do well, because I think it's important for us, for people in our native talent, our amateur talent, our collegiate talent, academy talent. Like, I think it's really important. So I'm hoping that they do well. Are there any teams in the other groups that you guys wanted to highlight? Like I said, we're mostly an LCS podcast, so that's what we focus on. But obviously, RNG is really good. Obviously, T1 undefeated last split. But is there any other thing, or do you want to spotlight or talk about any of those teams as well?
I wanted to just briefly again spotlight. Yeah, Vietnam's going to be good. They were good last time. However, the second place team is attending. So.
Oh, that's right.
The first place team opted out of going to MSI in favor of Southeast Asian Games, which is like the Asian Games as well. It's like their local Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I mean, I want to highlight them. I think they'll still be good, but it is a very top-heavy region. So their number one team is usually like their super team. And so the fact that this is the second place team going means that we might have to expect a little less. And it also means like, dude, Riot, make MSI worth something, please. Please make it worth something. Like, the title is worth something to the top players. I still believe that. A lot of players still like care, right? But the problem is like teams and orgs are like trying to avoid MSI. Even casters are not going. Like Captain Flowers, like, I'm not going. And like, he might give his reasons, but it's like very clear, like he just doesn't want to travel. He maybe just doesn't care. It's not that big of a deal. Like, it's not the same as casting at Worlds, right?
True.
So we're losing top talent. Like, Xerxe isn't going either. She's going to a CSGO major in her home country, which I don't blame her for and at all. I'm happy for her that she can use her freelancing to be big in CSGO, right? MSI needs to be worth something.
Good point.
Yeah.
Okay.
I definitely agree. I think that MSI maybe I don't know, Cadril, I think, and a couple people have kind of mentioned that maybe winning MSI should guarantee you some sort of something at Worlds, maybe a spot, maybe seeding, I don't know, something at Worlds. That would make sense, honestly, considering or in general, maybe, I don't know, somehow make MSI seem more prestigious, right? We get 2 international tournaments a year. It would be nice if if both of them were seen as like really competitive and prestigious. So I totally agree with that sentiment. I would like to highlight a team, RNG. This RNG team did not look amazing all year long. And they really pulled it together at the end in playoffs. Basically doing a ton of 5-game series. I think their only like non-5-game series was like their first round against Top Esports, and then they met him again in a 5-game series. So like, man, when you talk about EG really going through the works to win their championship, like RNG did the same thing in a much harder region. T1 breezed through to the finals.
Yeah,
victory,
they did.
Right. So as much as everybody is on the T1 hype train, how good they are, God, does RNG kind of have MSI's number? RNG has won MSI twice now, right? So I think that everybody's going to be on the T1 hype train, and RNG is going to meet them in the finals and somehow win a best of 5 series. Because that's what seems to happen is Korea comes in and they are seen as the best MSI team, and then somehow they meet the Chinese team in finals, and it goes to 5 games, and the Chinese team ends up winning. It's happened a couple times already. So I actually think that it's been so long since we've seen Team 1, right? The meta has changed so much since their playoffs. RNG is the most recent team to make it. Okay, no, I think it was. Yeah, they're the most recent team to make it, right? Or was it?
I think you're right.
Or RNG, who most recently made it. So they have the most recent stage time. If we're calling, predictions of any type, which we might have to do later once the wildcard teams are out, my bet's going to be on RNG until I see more games. I think RNG is favored over T1 in my opinion.
You heard it here, guys. If RNG wins, like Mitchell said it first over here.
Hey, I don't know, man. I think I've become sort of an LPL shill because last year I was EDG over Danwon too. Like,
that's
I think
right.
I'm slowly becoming an LPL shill because it just seems like these teams, like, as messy as they can be, like, you have to be so good to actually capitalize on any of their mistakes or messes. You have to be so good. And T1, I mean, honestly, LPL teams don't even draft that bad. I think T1 has the worst drafting, just the best players. But RNG team or LPL teams don't draft that bad. They have really, really good plays. They have really hype plays, and
Yeah.
they're super aggressive. So, yeah, I think
Welcome,
RNG is gonna be
Mitchell.
good.
Welcome to the LPL shill train, where you
Yeah.
just pick LPL every time and TL every time, unless they're facing each other. Then it's really sad.
Yeah.
Then it's LPL, yeah.
There's LPL. But yeah, I also agree. I agree. RNG is they beat a team with Faker or not Faker, Rookie on it, and they also beat a team with Knight on it, and they
Yeah,
beat
Karsa.
those.
Yeah.
Those are some really hard games, right? So like this RNG roster, Shahu's back in mid, guys. We get to
Yeah.
see Shahu, and like honestly, Shahu's he was so good in top lane. Like he actually has impressed me so much as a leader of a team to be that flexible and actually just be a top player, like literally top 2 top laner, maybe in the world, or no, maybe not necessarily in the world, but at least in his region, right? And still like extremely potent at worlds, and then just come back to mid and not skip a beat and just win another split. I also think they're favored in the sense that like I think that they're just like again SKT didn't have Damwon this year to level up with. Like Damwon was the overwhelming favorite last year, guys. Like
Yeah.
Damwon was like they should win everything. They didn't win anything last year, guys.
Yep.
Yep.
And it was
Got
because
3-2
RNG and
in both
EDG
finals.
in
Yep.
both finals, right?
Yep.
So I don't know. It's weird to see T1 come in. Like they have the same roster they had last year. Well, for the most
Minus
part,
Zeus. Yeah.
minus Zeus,
Zeus.
yeah, instead of Kana. They have mostly the same roster, and I just don't necessarily buy into like one split. They became gods all of a sudden. It's weird that they became gods when Damwon just disappeared off the map.
Yep. Nuggery's has something to say about
right.
that.
He's
next
coming
split,
back.
I can't
baby.
wait for next split LCK.
That's
I
gonna
might
be
watch
awesome.
LCK then.
Wait.
Yeah. It's gonna be
Nuggery
good.
is hype. Nuggery is so hype.
So I was thinking real quick, I don't know why this popped up, but you know how you were saying MSI should count for something. Like, what if they got a seed or an automatic place in Worlds? Can you imagine that? Like, if somebody won MSI, like EG won MSI, and then they were like, well, we're just not going to do anything for this summer split.
no,
We're just going to experiment.
Just guarantee play-ins. Just guarantee
Yeah,
play-ins.
no, I know.
Then
I'm just
then
saying,
it's
I
not
think
worth that much, but
I'm
it'd
not
be
actually.
hilarious.
Yeah, I think it would just be hilarious if that was the prize. Like,
Hey,
okay, you get a
deserve it.
guarantee.
Hey, you won the only
Yeah.
international tournament
Hey.
up till Worlds, right?
But it wouldn't be that crazy because then it would motivate teams like now, like in Spring Split, to actually try, because if they get a spot, then they could mess around and experiment, and it's kind of like the pressure's off, right? And they can just mess
but
around and experiment.
your point about like that team can actually AFK for
They
summer
can.
is very valid, right?
That's true.
Because when you think of it from a player standpoint, obviously they want to play, they don't want to seem as trash. But from an organization standpoint, like I don't want to burn my players out. I don't
Mhm.
want to show my strats. I don't want to do all these different things that comes with the expense of having to play games.
Yeah.
Right? They just would not do it. They would just be
That's
like,
right.
I don't need to do. So it's not an easy fix or solution. There's
No. I just thought that was funny. I
yeah,
could just see the
it's
team
funny,
being
yeah.
like, yeah, we're just gonna we're just not gonna show up today, guys.
Made
We're
it
just
to
not gonna-
Worlds.
Yeah.
I'm playing my academy team all year long
Yeah, there you go.
to hide my
That's-
strats. Yeah.
Has an MSI champion ever not made it to Worlds? In my memory, they've always made it. So EDG made it that year. They bombed out as 2015, infamous. RNG made it both times. SKT definitely made it both times. SKT has also won twice, by the way. T1 hasn't,
have.
but SKT has.
Yeah.
That one
Faker
definitely
has.
made it to Worlds the year they won. G2 made it to Worlds. So yeah, I think
Yeah,
I
Okay,
mean,
okay.
it wouldn't
Makes it
even
to
be that
Worlds.
controversial, right? Because we've never had like
Yeah.
a bomb out from an MSI
But-
champ to not making
yeah.
Worlds.
But no MSI team has ever won Worlds in the same year.
Yes, we've never had the
Ooh.
double champ yet.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
There's, oh man.
That'd
We
be
almost
cool.
had the
Slam.
Grand Slam with RNG.
What
They
if-
won both their splits? MSI did not win Worlds though.
Okay, but what if Faker, just as the goat that he is, what if this year he just won it both and then retired? It was like, I'm gonna win
if-
the Grand
If
Slam.
T1
I'm down
wins
for that
MSI, yeah, if
I'm
T1
okay with
wins
that.
MSI, they are. I think they're pretty favored to do Grand Slam if they win.
That would be
MSI.
awesome.
Yeah, I think
Breaking
they're favored
history.
to- yeah, because that.
Bro,
that'd
watch
be
watch
crazy.
what happens is Faker wins spring, wins MSI, wins Worlds, but comes in second in summer.
That happens actually all the time to T1. They almost never
Oh.
win summer and win Worlds. That like always happens with T1. They never win summer and win Worlds at the same time.
That's
Well,
funny.
I think they happen once, but it doesn't happen a lot, which is
Yeah.
funny. Yeah, that's interesting.
That's
So
pretty-
That could
that's
definitely
pretty hilarious.
happen. That could especially if
That
they
would
won
just-
round.
Those
It's
poor
I'm
script
very
writers.
salty that I willed that into existence now.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh no.
Okay.
I just want to talk about Xiaohu for a second. I think it's
Oh
funny.
yeah.
Xiaohu, he went from mid to top to mid, looks like the best player. And it's like, I want Xiaohu. Oh, we got Xiaohu at home, and we have Fudge.
Yeah.
Went
It's
from
our Xiaohu.
mid to top.
Oh no.
That's
I think that'll
amazing.
be the thumbnail.
Yeah. We got
Oh
Xiaohu at home.
gosh, there it is. Okay, well let's talk some patch stuff because we've been stuck in that patch. You know, what was it, 12.7 we were on?
Oh,
No,
yeah.
I mean
we were on 12.5.
we were on 5.
No, playoffs was 12-6. We
Okay.
were ahead of everyone else.
Just 'cause-
Everyone else was on 12-5.
But yeah, like no, like it's been a long time. So I'm ready that 12.8 will be the MSI patch. So you know, what are your guys' thoughts here? So just a quick highlight: Jinx is getting nerfed, Xayah's getting nerfed. I'm trying to look at champs that probably have an impact on
Swain
pro
got
play.
reworked.
Swain got reworked.
Kaisa buff.
Kaisa,
Lot
yeah.
of pro play implications in this patch, honestly.
Yeah, so let's
Zoe
just
buff,
kick it.
yeah.
Let's just kick it off. Kevin, is there anything in the changes that you saw that you think might make an impact on pro play? What do you think we'll see? What do you think we won't see, etc.?
Yeah, so I've been playing Sedge and Aram, and some of the other characters have been buffed.
Of course
I
you
think
have.
what we will see is a decline in Xayah. I think Xayah being at the top echelons of blind pick pro play was absurd. And for context, Xayah's being nerfed, right? That's why I'm saying she's getting declined.
Yeah.
But her Q is losing like 20 damage at rank 5, and more importantly, the cooldown goes up by 2 seconds at rank 5. That's huge.
Yeah, that's big.
At every
and
rank, I believe.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah,
at
every
no,
rank.
not every rank. It starts at 10, 10, and then it goes up by 0.5, then 1, then 1.5, then 2. So
Oh,
it's not
you're
2
right.
seconds
My
at
bad.
every rank.
My bad.
It's okay. I mean, it's the late game's the problem, right? Because Xayah's like
Yeah.
early game's always going to be good. With that build, it's just going to destroy you. And in terms of poke, it's safe. It's kind of uninteractive, honestly. I do like the concept of like a non-standard AD carry later on. Like your playstyle is just totally different, right? But it was just very oppressive against certain comps. So I'm glad it's out of the meta. I think the Jinx nerfs are not going to push her out of the meta. I don't think that Jinx, for context, Jinx is losing 50 base health. It's very simple. It's very short and sweet. What she's good at, like it's going to matter in laning phase, but they'll just babysit her more. Like you just put a little bit more attention on your Jinx player. If they're very good, like Gumayushi or even Danny, like you should do well. It's basically the difference of 1.5 autos after mitigation. So it is a difference, right? She might not be as high prio, but Jinx is OP, guys. Like what she does for a team is insane. So I think that's big. And then other than that, I think Sedge will always show up in pro play if she's like even remotely viable. I think the buffs to her armor makes her nicer, but I don't think she's gonna be like high prio.
Yeah. Before Alistair starts, I think it would be a good idea actually, because of how impactful the ADC changes were, if we maybe all talked about just the ADC changes for a bit and
Yeah.
then got
Okay,
into the rest
sure.
of the
Yeah,
patch.
fair enough.
Because I have opinions on both Jinx and Xayah, yeah, and Jin. So
Okay.
Yeah, sure. Then let's just like go over it. Do you, Alistair, since you're the expert on AD carries, do you want to go over it, or I can just like
Yeah,
go
yeah.
over every AD carry if you don't feel comfortable?
I think you kind of
can-
talked
I
about
can
Jinx.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's let
Um,
Alistair do it.
I don't. First, so the other 80 carries that weren't mentioned, Jin got some buffs on his E and his W. Nothing too crazy, though. I do think it's going to be enough for people to. I think it's going to be enough to remind people he exists and
Yeah.
he's going to be played. The Kaisa changes, they weren't necessarily buffs. I don't really think they matter, to be honest. I don't even think AP Kaisa was that good. It was strong, but it doesn't make it good. That's my opinion on that. And what was the last one? Tristana, those buffs, they don't matter. The AD carry pool for MSI is going to be fairly tight, I believe. So I think I think there's going to be a very small high prio pool, and then you're just going to see random things. It's going to be Jinx and Misfortune are the two highest prio picks for AD carries. Xayah got that. Those Xayah nerfs hit really hard. Thankfully, I hated that build. Playing it and playing against it, it was so boring and uninteractive. I'm glad it's done, but we probably still will see Xayah just because there's a lot of dive champs right now. But she's not going to be on that prio list. I also expect to see Ashe. I expect to see probably Samira, and maybe Varus.
What about Xerxe?
There.
Maybe, I don't know. It's hard to tell with that champion because Zeri's the new Callista where she's not allowed to ever be good. Just because she's gonna be so oppressive in pro play. I think we might see some Xerxe, but I don't think she's gonna be that much. I mean, right now, obviously for like NA solo queue, so it's kind of different. But she's sitting at a 42% win rate.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's bad. It's pretty low.
Yeah, she's not great.
That's one
Let's
of the worst.
go.
Yeah, I actually do think we will see Zeri. I think that
I do
don't
too.
think
It's
we're
not
gonna,
that much.
I don't think we're gonna see first pick Zeri like we've been seeing a lot. Um, but I do think we will see some early. I actually think we're gonna see more than maybe Alistair's letting on. It's hard to tell, right? I think we're gonna see more just because. I mean, I don't know. Teams have so much practice on the champion, right? And I think that the champion just breaks rules in certain comps. So if you can create a situation where the comp fits, doesn't matter how low the numbers are on Zeri, she will take over. And I do think that her ADC build, I mean, Doublelift recently made a video on it. He didn't say it was good. He just said it was fun, which I thought was important. I think actually that Shield Bow, Essence Reaver, Runon's build has some merit. It spikes really hard. Um, I wouldn't be surprised if we still saw the Triforce build though, the Bruiser build, still at MSI, because I just think that teams are gonna be like, this situation is too good for Zeri, and we're too good as a team on it. We've played so much on it, so I think we'll still see it. I do still think we'll see Jinx, but once again, I don't know if it's like B1 level material, right? Because
It will.
yeah, it will. Okay,
It will.
so
It will likely.
it'll probably be in that area, but we might like, I don't know if ADCs will be in the first pick area. I think it might be some
Oh
other
yeah.
role, maybe support, that'll get prioritized more, or top lane or jungle. But like Jinx, I think will still be the highest prio. But like when you have stuff like Ezreal come in or Tristana come in, and you throw an extra jungler down there, like that 50 health, it's not just like once. It's like every time she comes back to lane, but she has 50 less health. She has like almost a level 1 ignite, right? So I do think it's like it's not a small deal or a big deal, but it's like a medium deal for me. Like you're gonna die more. We already saw Jinx dying in lane already. Maybe you die an extra time in lane,
Mm.
and that could snowball. Like that stuff matters for early drags, for early jungle rotations and collapses. So I don't think this is a small nerf or a big nerf, but Tristana, I'm not. Alistair, I think you're fair to say it doesn't matter for bot lane. For mid and top lane though, like I've always seen and loved Tristana in those lanes because honestly, she AFK shoves, she scales, she takes turrets, and she's really hard to gank. I
That's
feel like
true.
we should see her in solo lane. Like these buffs for solo lane Trist are pretty fat. I'm not gonna lie, these are pretty fat for solo lane
Hmm.
Trist. So I'd be excited to see that. I don't know if we will, but damn, does she have some good matchups in mid lane? Like I feel like we should see this champion. Good matchups mid lane, good scaling, everything like that. Yeah.
Especially with one of the mid lane champions that got buffed. That I'm really happy they buffed for MSI.
Oh,
Zoe.
Yeah,
Oh
that's
yes.
right.
I wish Knight was
Zahu
going.
is gonna play
Zahu is also
so
good.
much Zoe. Oh my god, it's gonna be disgusting. I also think we're gonna see some Faker and some Caps and some JoJo Zoe, but yeah, that
I don't
champ
know
is
what
gonna get
JoJo's
played a
Zoe
lot.
looks like, but yeah.
I've never seen it.
He's
Does
a
he know what it
Fortnite
does?
gamer. He's a Fortnite gamer.
He could do
plays
anything.
Zoe.
Yeah.
Zoe
Okay,
is
he
like
plays
the
Zoe.
click. Like Zoe's like the click the most buttons mid laner champion, right?
Yeah,
Like
that's
next to
true.
Rise and Cassiopeia, so
Yeah,
he's
you're
gonna play
mining
it.
for the little summoner spells and item activations. Oh no.
Exactly. Yeah.
I also think Aphelios will be played.
Yes,
Gala is an Aphelios enthusiast. He usually latches onto like 2 or 3 characters and just becomes the best in the world at them,
Yeah.
even if they're not meta. So
Oh
you're
yeah.
just gonna see weird stuff. Like no one else played Aphelios in Korea except for like the Reddit or Freddit Bria and played it like once
I
and
think
they
Gumiusi
lost.
played it.
No, no,
No?
not during playoffs at least. Maybe
Oh,
during the
okay.
regular season. Yeah, playoffs they
Which
played
ship?
Jinx, Xayah, Jinx, Xayah, Jinx, Xayah, and then one game
Yeah.
with Caitlyn. It was a very short playoffs. Dude, LCK
Nice.
is really lame. They beat Kondu Freaks, which is all the Freaka Freaks, and then they beat Genji, and then they won the title. I'm like, is that it? Is that all we
Yeah.
get to watch? I
Mhm.
really hate LCK's format.
I also think we're gonna see a lot of Ezreal, honestly. The buffs were, I mean, they're like good in like mid game for like sniping people and stuff, but I just think like buffs like that, they're just gonna like, everybody loves playing Ezreal, right? I think it'll just
Yeah.
see play whether it's optimal or not. So we'll see that. And finally, I think to round out, if anybody doesn't have anything else, to round out the bot lane, if we're gonna see Swain rework in MSI,
Yeah.
which I don't think we're gonna see a lot of, because I don't think he's that good in Summoner's Rift. He's very easy counterable in matchups. We'll see him Swain bot. I think we'll see Swain bot. I don't think we'll see Swain solo lane. We're gonna see either Swain bot lane carry or Swain support, because I do think that Swain is gonna suck in solo lanes. Honestly, it's so hard to
I
get Z.
disagree. His bot lane got hit pretty hard with these changes.
Interesting. He has the
His
highest win
his
rate and pick rate in bot lane carry right now. So
Yeah, in my personal opinion, he got nerfed in his overall damage for survivability and sustain, which is what made him strong in bot lane, and especially playing him as an AD carry is pretty. It's much harder now due to the fact that you can't follow up on teammate CC and perma CC someone.
That's true. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
That was the biggest change that hurt him for bot lane. I actually do think we probably will see mages bot lane. I think, like I said earlier, I think we're going to see stuff from everywhere bot lane. We're going to see everything because there's going to be Jinx and Misfortune, who are going to be the two highest prios because they're the two best AD carries, and I don't think it's close. Though they kind of have a weird interaction where Jinx is more versatile, but Misfortune beats Jinx. So we're going to see what teams prioritize over that.
So yeah, Jinx has no, or Misfortune. If you're a certain class of champion, you have no counterplay. You just get circled on. You can't move. So it's
We might see
really
Kalista,
like
bro. We honestly might see Kalista. I don't know.
Yeah,
Like
it's
it's gonna be all over the place. I expect
We got-
Ziggs. I expect Aphelios.
yeah. But that's interesting about the Swain thing. I forgot that they removed the CC. Because honestly,
Yeah.
the concept of Swain and solo lanes is like, dude, if you put up top lane and you have a champion that has a dash, like how do you land damage as a Swain against
Mm-hmm.
a top laner? Like you have Q, but you can't land your W and E ever on top lane
That's
champions.
true.
So like it's I don't know, man. Swain's
I
such
mean, you
a
can land it on melees.
I don't think so. I mean, you can land it on melees if they fuck up and they walk up to a wave when you have it and they don't
Yeah.
plan for it, but that's pretty grief, right? To get
Yeah.
hit by Swainy when you're going for a minion wave. So that's the only way he ever does damage in lane is he lands his E. So I just think conceptually the way his basic abilities are, he just kind of sucks it like as a solo laner.
Yeah,
So,
I don't
know.
think we're gonna see Swain unless we see him
Yeah.
maybe as like a counter to Zoe.
Yeah. Or
Faker's just
it's
gonna
like a
pull it out.
Yeah.
or it's like, the enemy team has like, they have like Viego and like a melee mid and top lane and melee support because Swain just loves those types of games, right?
Oh,
Those are
yeah.
the only times where Swain is just like actually a good champion is when enemy team has like 3 to 4 melees that have to run into him. So, but then why play Swain? Play Zaya, right? So,
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to other parts of the patch. Where did you guys want to start off? I mean, we talked about ADC, but is there any other champ or role that you want to talk about? I know we saw J4 a lot. He wasn't touched. I don't know. What do you guys think about the jungle changes? Or you could talk about whatever else interests you on the patch.
If
Yeah.
no one else has others to go, go ahead, Mitchell.
Yeah, I have. Since you mentioned J4, I actually do have a lot of thoughts about jungle and J4.
Okay.
So jungle didn't really get touched in this patch,
Mhm.
and J4 has kind of been running over the meta a lot. I mean, we're still gonna see a ton of Lee Sin, we're still see a ton of J4, we're still gonna see a ton of Viego, and probably some Graves, maybe a little bit of Xin Zhao. But what I would like to highlight for just people who wonder why we're seeing so much J4 and how it feels like it's just really good and always wins is that like people in the meta, we're not playing the champs that are good against J4. Like, there's a lot of champs. I think like Lucian is one of them that is in the meta that's really good into J4. Like, he just doesn't care about J4, right? Lucian
Mhm.
just actually can outplay him at every stage of the game. Same with Ezreal, right? But like stuff like Jinx, Xayah, there's no counterplay against the J4. It's like such a big like swing and what you can do against a J4. But the loss of Thresh in the meta, right? He got nerfed in lane so many times that Thresh is one of the hardest counters to J4.
Yeah.
If you kind of save your Flay with Glacial Augment and you mark the J4, he can't do anything in a team fight. He's actually a free lifesteal bot for your ADC if you have a good enough Thresh. So I'm curious if we'll see some like, we'd be like, what, our landing phase might suck ass, but I'll have Thresh and we will make the enemy J4 useless. Another thing for just in the general meta, right? We no longer see heavy jungle prio. So we don't see people invading for junglers. We don't see
Mhm.
laners moving for junglers, taking scuttle crab, which is just a perfect J4 meta, right? Everybody's so
That's
much
true.
more focused on the lanes rather than junglers because it's so low econ and everybody's building these really low damage builds. that J4 really thrives in this area. But I think there are tons of viable comps. Like Nocturne is one we've seen already, where if you don't go the like SOFM style build like Inspired does, but if you do go full damage, you can really camp the crap out of J4's jungle and make him completely useless stat wise. I mean, still can be very useful kit wise. Um, that these strategies exist and can beat J4. It's just that I don't think teams want to opt into them because they're so risky in this meta. You just
Mhm.
play 5v5, right? So, moral of the story is the counters to J4 are not in the meta right now. So I think
Mm.
he's still going to be probably the best or one of the best junglers out there.
And then I want to add in on the patch. The thing is, Poppy is also getting a big buff, a
Oh,
really
yeah.
big buff. Poppy's W at every rank is 4 seconds lower now. Just straight up,
Oh,
4
wow.
seconds less, from 24 to 20 down to 12. And then Keeper's Verdict became, in my opinion, like a super strong spell now. It was always been like okay, right? But to
Mhm.
me, it's a really strong spell in pro play now. What they did was the charge missile, so basically the thing that Poppy shoots to knock people, is
Yeah.
500 missile speed faster. The uncharged version went from 0.75 to 1 second, which means you can do a perfect Poppy combo a lot easier now.
Ah,
And most importantly, the knockback distance on Poppy's
it's
ult went from
far.
2400 to 3400. That
Yeah.
went from like a nuisance to you can win a team fight. Like it used to be like you knock them, and if they were fast enough, they could still come back in for a rotation. 1000 extra range means like you get those precious moments in pro play, especially if you knock 2 people out of Baron Pit or Dragon Pit, you just win the game. So to me, I think she could be played now. Maybe in jungle, probably more so in jungle than top, but there are just certain matchups that you just have to remember. Someone's going to pick a Poppy. There are going to be wildcard regions where they're going to be like this guy who just loves Poppy a lot. Like Vizichasi really liked Poppy back in the day. He just picked it randomly out of meta. So I think she's crazy. I think that 4 seconds is huge on one of the most powerful anti-dash spells in the game.
Poppy
Yeah.
support, baby. I think Poppy support, if we're going to see it, it's going to be
No,
Poppy
that's
jungle
true. That's
support.
possible too.
That is
Yeah,
possible.
yeah, I think
I
Poppy
forgot to think
support
about that.
is one of those like it's just like, oh my god, you just pick it late and it can counter an entire comp and you don't have to put any gold into it, and you're just like, wow, Poppy support just feels like a free win in these comps. There's so many games where Poppy as a late pick just can counter entire team comps that we've seen, like so many dashes, so many mid-range, just short range carries with little mini dashes, right? So yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I
Poppy
think.
support's the night.
Yeah. I think that the whole, being able to knock them super far during crucial objectives, like knocking the enemy jungler away that far, could be, really game changing. What about Silas? I wanted to get your thoughts on that because I know Silas hasn't been picked a lot, but his arc did get a cooldown reduction. I know oftentimes he's a counter to things like TF or and anybody really with amazing ults. Do you think we might see more Silas? And what are your thoughts on the rest of mid? Because again, Rise was a champ that is often seen in the mid lane, but it's got super nerfed so hard. We saw JoJo still play him in playoffs, but that was on 12.6. So thoughts on mid lane and Silas, in general.
Actually, just before we go to mid lane, there are a couple champs we didn't mention that I think we do need to mention for jungle.
Okay.
We did gloss over Sejuani. I think she'll matter, but there were some champions that, going back to 12.7, which we also haven't seen.
That's true.
Lilia and Wukong.
Yep.
Are
Wukong,
gonna be
I forgot
You're
about
right.
him. Yeah,
Yes,
Wukong.
that's true.
They got buffed significantly,
Mm.
and I fully believe we're gonna see those two champions. I think they might be two of the strongest right now. So I just wanted to throw that out there before we moved on too much.
No, that's a good point.
Let's. I forgot about the monkey. The monkey in the
Mhm.
jungle is actually quite a big deal. His buffs were very, very large. He was already a decent champion. These buffs definitely pushed him over. But he's kind of a jack of all trades jungler,
Yeah.
right? So he doesn't clear super fast, and his pre-6 ganks aren't the best, and he's not the best dueler. So like he's not the best at any of those things, and he's not even actually that good at dueling early game either, which is a big deal for Wukong. But if you
Yeah.
can get items on him, like not even like a full mythic, like I'm talking like a Sheen and like level 6,
Mhm.
then that's when you're like, I'm online. Now I'm ready to go. I'm ready. I can full combo champions. I can start team fights. I can really skirmish really, really well. Um, and his ganks, once he does get rolling, his ganks are just unplayable. He's stealth, and he has a dash, 2 dashes, and he has 2 knock-up AoE ultis, and it does a ton of damage. So if he gets rolling and he doesn't get rolled in the early game, right? So like a Lee Sin, gotta roll this champion in the early game. Like Lee Sin wins every 1v1 in the early game. Same with Xin Zhao. But if you can get Wukong to level 6 and get him an item, he can carry a whole game by himself. He's that kind of champion. So very, very strong. Very, very strong.
Nice. Okay. Any other jungle talk that you guys wanted to mention, or can we?
I'm
Should
gonna
we
play
move?
Lilia, and if we're
I'm-
lucky, if we're really lucky, we get to see Karthus.
Oh, because his clear speed didn't it get
yeah.
buffed up?
I
It
do
has-
want to see Karthus.
He
Yeah.
has
I do
the
wanna see it.
fastest jungle clear, and it's not even close.
He
It's
can
like,
leashless full clear by I believe it was 254.
I think it's
Dang,
254,
that's
yeah,
That's the
fast.
fastest I've seen it. Which
Yeah,
is,
that's
that's
crazy.
ridiculous.
Yeah, that'd be
like
interesting to see.
Leashless full clear.
Yeah,
And that's
so
not
if you-
skipping the mini Krugs either.
Yeah, so I think if you do leash for Karthus, what I've seen is you can full clear with a leash, and then you can go into the enemy jungle depending on the matchup, and they're not even close to finishing. You could just yoink a Raptors or something real quick, and just go back, take your scuttle, and all of a sudden you have like a level and a half lead or some shit. So it can be really oppressive. And as you're saying, right, similar to J4, why he's not getting countered is there's not a jungle heavy invade meta. Like nobody goes and invades the enemy jungle and like actually repeatedly punishes them, right? The closest we saw was the Renekton Nidalee when Canyon was absolutely duking on Hecarim, right? But like Nidalee is okay. We might see some play because people love playing Nidalee. But,
Yeah, but they
I
still
mean,
lost too, and that's the
they
thing.
still lost,
Like
right? So,
you
like,
know, I don't think
yeah.
it's worth the investment because we've been talking about this. Like to me, that game that you just mentioned was the perfect example of like if you invaded the enemy jungler like with the best possible outcome, that was it. And they still were, managed to lose. But I agree. I think that right now it's just not that type of meta where you're invading jungles because we've alluded to this. Jungle at this moment isn't very much like the carry type jungle that we were used to seeing. It's more of the kind of facilitator, be there in the right places. That's why we see Inspired sometimes go those crazy supportive builds. I'm not saying it's across the board, but it does tend to be that way where you can pick a jungler that does need a little bit of time to ramp up, but then is very powerful once that happens. So is there anything else with jungle? I did want to talk about, so going back to the Sylas, do you think we'll see Sylas again, his ultimate got cooldown reduction, and any other thing you want to talk about mid or top lane?
I got some for top, but
Okay.
I'll go last.
Yeah, I
All
think
right.
Sylas might come a little bit more in play. He was played 5 times between Korea and NA, didn't win a single game, but
Bjergsen.
they're reducing his ult at rank 3 by 10 seconds from 40 to 30, which is a big deal. That's great. But the problem is it's still kind of a luxury because of the way team fights work in pro play. They're not going to be happening so often that the ult cooldown always being up is a game changer, but it makes it a little nicer. Like you feel a little better picking. I will say in EU it's 5-1, so it's not like garbage everywhere. And Caps played it twice, so we might just see it. There's always people who like playing Sylas, and then there's Bjergsen.
And then there's Bjergsen.
Yeah.
Ouch. Yeah,
Ouchie.
I think we'll see Sylas as a counter pick. So Victor and Ari are gonna be still the 2 best mid laners by far, by like a long shot. And then it'll probably be kind of preference after that. Like we might see some
Vex.
Ori,
I think
Vex,
Zoe's gonna be
Zoe.
top tier. I think Zoe's gonna be top tier, and Vex is Xiaohu's special. Xiaohu just doesn't lose on that character.
Yeah, but you have to be careful about those, right? Because then you still have LeBlanc running around. You still
That's
have,
true.
and then you have Sylas as a counter pick. Also, Sylas is great into Zoe. Sylas is great into Ari and Vex. Not so great into Victor. But then you also have these Kassadin buffs, which are not small, right? Kassadin, if you do early rotation as Zoe, Kassadin it's the freest lane for Kassadin, right? The only way Kassadin loses the Zoe lane if she goes AD, like if she goes a Cole or a Dornsblade level 1, right? So yeah, it's a scary world for some of these mages when Sylas and Kassadin both get buffs. So I think it could be spicy. I think we could see some Akali mid. I think we could see some AD champs mid. So we could see some stuff when we have people like Caps and Jiahu and Faker and JoJo all running around. But to comment on the big one, Rise.
Yeah.
All right.
We're still
I
gonna see
know-
Rise.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I think he's trash. I think he's the
Yeah.
most garbage thing ever. But I think we'll still see him a little bit. Like
Yeah.
teams are just too good at him. Like that's another thing that's like as bad as the champions might be, like Xerxe. It's like we're so good at their champs, and you know what? Rise still has a point and click route. So
Sure. Yep.
we'll see.
Do you think that Rise, this iteration of Rise, is one of the like in recent history most broken like long-term characters? So just are unnerfable because like he's been nerfed. I would say at least
There's a
5+
few
times,
of them,
right?
but Rise is up there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Akali's also up there. Akali
And
literally had 10+ nerfs before she was
Akali,
like.
Gangplank, Aurelia, Rise.
Oh,
Gameplay got a buff.
Yeah,
so,
no, I was gonna get to that eventually.
yeah, we're gonna get to that.
yeah, that's true. Sorry, I forgot he's a top laner. He just
Yeah.
does everything.
Yeah. So, well, anything other than the mid lane, I do think that we had some kind of tight windows with support, ADC, and jungle, like as far as like champion pools, like what we'll see. But I think I agree with you, Mitchell. I think mid lane is kind of wide open. What are your feelings on top lane, Alistair?
Well, I think we have a bit of a spicy lane. Obviously, Gangplank buffs were pretty. They're pretty big.
Disgusting.
I mean, he was already super high prio, and it's just gonna get worse.
Yep.
There were some Gwen buffs. We might see some, depending on matchups. Obviously, Gragas still gonna be super good. Some Jace nerfs.
Yep.
I think we're still gonna see him, but
Yep.
he's not gonna be as oppressive. Now here's the spicy one. I think we're gonna get to see some unhit Nico top.
Oh
With their
wow!
W
Really?
buffs.
Yeah, those W buffs are fat.
Yeah, I've been hearing around that Nico's starting to be really oppressive again, so there's a chance she gets played as a split pusher. I hope not, because it'd be really boring, but there is a chance that does get played. Rengar buffs. I really hope we get to see some Rengar top.
Yep.
That champ. Oh wait, no, this was after the nerfs, so maybe not.
Yeah. This is
and
they
Pantheon.
nerfed his turret damage. Yeah. Pantheon.
I think we might see Pantheon top. I'm pretty confident we'll see him support because he got buffed plus Umbral buffs.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Making it cheaper, especially for support. But those are my main points for top lane.
All right.
Okay.
From what I've heard about Pantheon is that he is absolute garbage. Even but people are still playing him a lot. But I've been hearing that he's still garbage. Well, at least in support. For top lane, I mean, he still is really oppressive matchups. But for top lane, I mean, my main focus is I'm curious what the Ornn meta is going to look
Oh,
like and how
yeah.
the
Me
Asian
too.
teams
That's what
are
I
going
was
to
gonna agree
tackle
on.
that. Like, that's going to be the biggest thing, right? Because Aatrox and GP are both very, very strong right now, but so is Ornn. So we have the Western meta, Broken Blade and Impact both played a ton of Ornn. What are people going to do, right? Is
Gwen and
Zeus
Nico.
going to play? Yeah, are we going to play Gwen,
Jace.
Nico, GP, Aatrox into it? Are we still going to see the age-old counters of Jace that is nerfed, right? Zeus just going to lock in. Is T1, if they see Ornn, are they just going to lock in their classic LeBlanc, Lee Sin, Jace topside, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm really excited to see. Will we see more classic team fight counters? Trundle, Braum, or we see lane counters, right? Aatrox, Nico. So I think that's going to be my biggest question mark for top lane because a lot of champs got buffed that do kind of crap on him up there.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
For reference to the viewers, NA played Ornn 20 times in playoffs. We played double of every other major region, the other 3 combined. So EU played 6, and like I think LPL and LCK played like 2 or 1 time. Like it was very small. So I'm just like, do we have a read on the meta, or are we just like incapable of beating Ornn? I don't know. It could be interesting. Maybe.
Everyone's stupid except me.
Yeah.
They're the
maybe
problem.
maybe T1 picks just like all super greedy like early game stuff, and they just try to beat it up, and then they lose, right? And Impact's just like I don't care I don't care if you're
Yeah.
Zeus or Bin or whoever he meets up in group stage in Rumble stage. He's like, playing Ornn, I'm chilling. We
Yeah.
have Jinx, we win. So
Exactly.
I mean, it's nice that we have different metas, and we're not just copying Korea.
No, yeah, we're not at all. Yeah.
Not
Not
at all.
copying Korea or LPL by any means, which is a very unique thing for us this year. I'm going to argue that the Ornn meta is gonna fall off pretty hard. I think the tempo
Oh, I
that the
agree,
Asian
by the way.
the Asian teams are gonna bring on is gonna be way too high. Because you know what Ornn really sucks at, right? His cooldowns are so long in the early game. If you miss one EQ combo, you just kind of stand around doing nothing, right? So
I've done that plenty of times at ARAM.
yeah,
You're like, now what?
I've seen
Yeah.
Whippo just like
Oh,
he
no.
whips his Q, whips his E, and he's like, all right, I guess I don't do anything for like 10 seconds. I guess I'm just
Yeah.
hanging out here. So
Is there any other champs that y'all want to talk about before we move on to? So one thing I wanted to mention was the stopwatch changes, because the whole double stopwatch thing. They
That wasn't
changed.
really that big.
Yeah, so that's
pretty niche.
it's pretty niche. We did see it every now and then, but so do you guys think it'll make any difference at all? Not really.
No,
Mm.
because
Nah.
if you're all it makes you do is you buy a stopwatch before,
Yeah, exactly.
and then before you upgrade. That's all it really does. I mean, I think that if the real like big item change would be either Abyssal Mask or Gale Force nerfs.
Yeah,
Gale
let's
Force
let's
nerfs are pretty big.
yeah let's talk about Gale
Umble-
Force.
Umblegrave buff was pretty big too.
Yeah.
So for Gale
Uh,
Force, I don't know if you want to chime in. I think it's pretty whatever nerf. I don't know. Yeah, it's up to you. Though. Yeah.
Honestly, it feels pretty rough.
Hmm.
It doesn't stop you from building it, but it makes it easier to justify building Kraken Slayer. Long story short, if you haven't seen it, the cooldown went from 90 seconds to 110 seconds.
Oh wow.
It makes it really hard to justify going Gale Force without also going Ingenious Hunter, which means you're not going Absolute Focus and Gathering Storm, because having 110-second cooldown active in late game team fights when the average ultimate cooldown is close to half of that makes it pretty rough. So they can just force on you, burn it, and then their spells are up before yours is.
I think that for pro play, it's especially in the mid game, the nerf won't really matter. I think the nerf will matter the most, like when you first buy it and in the late game. But in the mid game, you do tend to sit around and not use the cooldown.
Yeah, for
really
sure.
ever. So
That's what I'm talking
uh,
late game team fights.
yeah,
Yeah.
so late game I agree that'll matter a lot, and then early game, right, in the laning phase, having 20 seconds on Gale Force usually means like an extra wave or two, so you might lose kill pressure off of that longer cooldown. The Humble Grave buffs, everybody's already saying the item was broken and it got buffed even more. And then now, if you ever play solo queue, I mean, I don't think this is gonna hit pro play, but it's like lethality junglers just all rush Humble Grave now. Everybody like
Mhm.
Graves, Kha'Zix, Lee Sin, J4, everybody's
Kiana.
rushing Humble Grave. Yeah, Kiana, you got bot lane, you got Pikes running around rushing
Yeah.
Humble Grave. Honestly, it's so AIDS. I don't even buy warding trinkets anymore, man. I just
Yeah.
go full on either blue trinket or red trinket. So like I feel like God, there's just no point in warding in solo queue anymore.
Mhm.
Pike,
Everybody-
Pantheon, Senna for support.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
G2
bad,
likes
that's
to
pretty
play Pike. They played a little bit with Targamas, I think. So like, yeah, I mean, I think you would see it more often. It's broken. It was already good before, but now it's like, it's even more broken. It might be hard to make work in pro because lethality junglers are just so risky. But if you were going to see a lethality jungler, this would be the enabling reason for it, because vision control is such a big deal in pro play.
Yeah, I definitely think that we can see Pike mid. So like in situations in worlds where there is a Zoe mid that is blind picked, I mean you could go the Cassid and Silas route, or you could go the Pike route. Because actually Zoe can never ever kill a Pike on her own. Like it's just impossible to kill a Pike on her own. So I don't know, man. If anybody's gonna do it, it's Caps. Caps has already done it. He's won
Mhm.
MSI doing that shit. So that would be some spicy stuff.
Oh,
Seeing
I
some
can't
Pike mid
wait.
from Caps. I would be really hyped about that.
That'd be awesome.
And then I would be just so glad that they're actually nerfing the roaming Pike style post MSI. 'Cause of,
Yeah.
what's his name? Dave Mon? God,
Dave
that
Mon.
guy. That guy, honestly, he is so good at Pike mid, but he has ruined solo queue. Same with the Bouse.
Yeah.
These two people ruined solo queue for me, man. Pike
Yeah.
mids, inting Scion tops. Oh my god.
Yeah. Okay. What else? Is there anything else as far as the patch you guys wanted to touch on?
I think that's it.
Yeah, I think that's it for
Pretty
me.
big patch. Lots of stuff to
big
digest.
patch,
I think we'll have a lot more to say when we actually see some games happen. So it starts next Tuesday at like 4 a.m. my time. So I think that's like But 1 a.m. for
1,
y'all. So
0,
Mitchell will
1.
probably be awake. Mitchell will probably be awake and watching it.
It'll depend.
Yeah. So, anyways, is there anything else that you guys wanted to talk about before we wrap up the episode? I think is good. Yeah, go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah. So post MSI, Riot gave us a little teaser of something we've been asking for on this podcast
Yes.
forever. Across the board, sweeping changes to damage. It should be nerfs
Yes.
just unilaterally. I would also expect healing will be nerfed as a compensation for that, because healing would be ridiculous
God.
if damage is super low, right? I don't know. It could be just -5%. It could just be a meme, right? And I don't want to expect too much, but the fact that Riot is at least telling us ahead of time means that they must be pretty confident that this will like make the community like at least somewhat content. Like, so it's a big deal. We've been saying it for a long time. It kind of feels nice to be justified that like this isn't just us being whiners. Like, there's just way too much damage in the game, and it feels really awful. If you're a squishy, especially like I main tanks, right? But if you're a squishy, it's the worst.
I think I think it's even worse if you're a tank. Like the window of which a tank is tanky has gotten like dramatically smaller in the game, right? Because tanks, they're not that tanky in the early game. They're pretty tanky in the mid game, right? That's where tanks shine. But once you get to late game, like 30 minutes, that tank is just paper. That dude disappears so fast. You can have a full build Ornn against a full build ADC in a team fight. That dude's gone. That dude's instantly gone, right? Even a full build mage. So I don't know about instantly gone. That's obviously I'm exaggerating. But I would like to see, for my personal vendetta, is freaking flat pen. That's what I want. Honestly, nerfed or changed or adjusted. I think flat pen is just so broken in solo queue. I don't know how good it is in pro play necessarily, but to me in solo queue, it's like you rush it and you just rush like a mages, right? You rush Sork Boots, Ludens, or Hextech Rocket Belt, and then you go Void Staff, and you are one-shotting or nearly one-shotting almost every champion in the game. So it's pretty broken.
I don't want to go into a whole new segment here. But my personal issue with the tanks, obviously, LDR does need to be nerfed slightly, but I don't think it needs to be nerfed too much. Personally, obviously, I'm biased, but I think the big issue is the fact that almost every role has access to a large amount of percent pen. Sunder and Eclipse are the main issues in my opinion, just because AD carries are their job is to kill tanks, right? Obviously, deleting them from the game is a bit much, but their job has always been, you're the ones who's supposed to kill tanks. The assassin who's building full lethality and then a singular mythic item who gives percent pen and max health damage on the mythic passive, it's a bit much. The bruiser who's just building general items should not be able to one-shot a tank with Sunder. So I think personally they need to touch that and then do a small LDR nerf and then go from there for tanks. But
I think Void Staff is the biggest problem. It's 45%, dude, on a
At
cheap
2800. 2800.
Yeah.
Oh,
God,
yeah.
that item is so broken.
45% magic pen. That means that if I build a Negatron and get to 100 MR as an 80 carry, I lose the Negatron basically. Straight
I
up.
forgot
And
about
that's not
that because
factoring
I
the
never bought the
boots.
item.
The boots, the Shadow Flame, you're literally just taking true damage with the Negatron on, and you're just like, what am I supposed to do? Build another one?
I thought it was 35. Yeah, okay,
No, it's
never mind then.
45. It started 35 years ago, and then they ramped it up by 5, and they're like, let's add another 5%. And I was just like,
I know LDR is 35 plus Giant Slayer.
Both the percent pens are really powerful. I mean, continuing to kind of hawk my point of view is that the way flat pen and percent pen is calculated, that it's in favor of building flat pen with like combining these two numbers, has really like brought it over the top, right? Because it's like the buying the Void Staff or the LDR on its own and shredding that damage, I think is fine. It makes sense in the game, right? You're investing in an item to take away a large amount of resistances. But when you add it on top of all the flat pen that's available in the game, you're just getting to true damage way too easily when the items themselves are already so good, so efficient. So I think that the percent sort of pen stuff will kind of fix itself with some flat pen changes, but none of us really know. We're not on the balance team, right?
Yeah.
So,
Well, we play the game, so we wouldn't know.
Yes. We're above silver as well.
oh, Lord.
I mean, I think Kevin makes the good overall point is that, Riot supposedly listen, and what the actual changes to be made are going to be, we don't know yet, but hopefully. Yeah, we'll believe it when we see it. So, but hopefully that is a direction that's going to happen. I did see a clip on Reddit where I forget, it was a pro game. It was like several seasons ago. Faker was in it or whatever, and I just remember there was an Ezreal got hit by like 3 things and survived, and I was like, "Whoa, it's crazy." And I'm not saying it should go back. I shouldn't maybe go back to that level, but I mean to be able to survive like more than one ability is pretty nice. So I think those are good points of discussion. I think we've hit a lot of things today, but I think that's going to wrap it up. I want to thank my co-hosts once again, Kevin, Mitchell, Alistair, for all of you guys listening. Thank you so much for your support. Can't wait to watch MSI. So we won't have an episode next week because that's when MSI is starting, but the following week we should have another episode going. So again, thank you for listening, and enjoy your climb on the Rift. Try not to be too toxic, and we'll see you all on the next episode. Peace.